Live with you today. I'm going to talk about feeling too overwhelmed to even get organized. This is by request week in my big family moms group. And one of the beautiful moms in that group had shared that she just doesn't even know where to start. And I can totally understand because sometimes when it rains, it really pours, right? And then the fear and the guilt starts to pile up because you're like, oh no, the kids aren't getting their needs met. I'm behind in homeschool. My health goals that I set out for myself in September, I'm nowhere close to them, maybe even slid back. Or, great, another check just bounced. That feels fantastic. And my mom is calling again, and I don't even want to return phone calls to people I even like because it's just everything's happening at once. And I can totally relate. Like everything I just said, I've literally walked through. So today I'm just going to share from my heart, from my life as a big family mom of almost 11 children in 9 days, how I've been able to get to a place where overwhelm isn't crippling me when it's time to get organized. And I just feel like, oh man, if I could just get on top of just one area of my life, whether it's the home organization, the homeschool organization, or just like even meals, then I could start to maybe move in a direction that would feel really good for me. And if I just start somewhere, then I know I'll get there eventually. So I'm going to share a couple of tips today that have just really helped me from the heart perspective and then out into my actual practical day-to-day life. So first thing I do when I'm feeling just too overwhelmed to even get organized, it's time to hit pause because something's going on. It's kind of like the alarms on your dash, like when you're driving, right? You've got your dash in front of you and there are little lights that are going to light up and tell you like, hey, something's wrong with like the temperature over here. Like my husband takes care of the car department, but I am aware that if a light goes on that doesn't normally go on, maybe the fuel is running low or the something's overheating, right? It's a warning sign. Something's wrong with my brakes. These are signals, right? Kind of just like our body sometimes tells us, hey, slow down. Something's wrong, maybe physically wrong. You're getting symptoms or emotionally wrong. So when I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, and I start to actually physically feel it in my body. Like I can feel tension. I feel nausea. I start seeing it in my sleep. I'm staying up really late, like way late, later than even for me. And I'm a night owl. It's time for me to slow right down and explore what's going on. Just like if any one of your kids was started to show some unusual symptoms, like they were just not waking up properly. They were, like your kids who normally play suddenly are not playful. You're like, hey, what's wrong? Right? Because normally you're playful, or they normally eat with a great appetite. And all of a sudden they're like, nah, I don't want to eat. You're concerned, right? Because that's your mama instinct to say, hey, what's wrong? When did they start feeling this way? How long has it been this way? Is anyone else feeling this way? You start to troubleshoot. So part of my own self-care, which is a popular word, I like to say, be your own best friend. If my friend was saying, I've been feeling really off lately. I don't even want to handle like the basics anymore. I'm not taking calls. I don't want to spend time with people. I feel terrible because I just can't get anything organized. You'd be like, well, hey girl, like, let's talk. Maybe we can unravel this together. Maybe we can just backtrack a little bit and sort of ask some questions and find out, when did this start? How long have you been feeling this way? Is there anything that happened in the last couple of weeks or months that maybe triggered this cascade of events and now you're just in overload, can't even think mode? So, talking to someone who you feel that level of safety with, maybe a spouse or a really close friend, someone who has that level of, you can be really real with them and you're safe, you're okay in their presence, you can be totally raw and at your lowest, and they're still going to be there for you. You have someone like that in your life, they're worth their weight in gold. I'd count on my hand, and I consider them all gifts from God, people I can be really real with. Step one, though, is I first do that alone with myself, because maybe I just haven't given myself time to explore and ask, like I would with a child, just a couple of quick troubleshooting questions. How long have you been feeling this way? Anything happen? Just that alone, journaling it out, if you're kind of more of a journaler, not really a journaler, but sometimes I find it a helpful process. Just, here we go, having a cup of coffee. My sweet friend Jen sent this to me this week because she knew I was having a bit of a rough week this week. So a lot of things happen because, like I said, when it rains, sometimes it pours. And I did take some time and just sort of set aside once the kids were in bed, because I have some little patches in my day where actually the noise does stop, right? And the energy level in the house goes down. I just explored, I knew what was going on. It wasn't so hidden from me. And I gave myself some time to unravel this like tangled yarn ball of emotions inside of me. Because if I didn't deal with that stuff in any way, shape, or form, and I just pretended it didn't matter, or I told myself I don't have time to deal with this, it was all going to catch up real quick. And having a baby in 9 days, Christmas around the corner, it was time to deal. So step one I recommend is explore that overwhelm. Slow down where you need to, maybe cut some of the stuff, jettison the extra weight in your life where you can, so you can, think it through, pray it through, talk it through with yourself, with God, with someone that you trust, that you feel like you could just, I'm a verbal processor, so that helps me to actually just talk it out loud with someone who's there as a sounding board, really not even offering much advice, but they're just listening, because quite often I can figure out what's going on if I just give myself some time and some space and intention to do it. Say, I'm going to solve this puzzle because something's wrong. I see the symptoms. I want to understand the cause. And once I understand the cause, then I can begin to work on it. So once you start to see that, okay, I think I'm figuring out a little piece, or maybe even you've nailed it. You're like, I know exactly what's going on with the overwhelm, and then leading me to not be able to get organized in any of the key areas of my life. Then I recommend it's time to do something I call triage. Triage is just like if you've been to the ER, and as a big family mom, if you haven't yet, you probably will, because that's life. Triage is the nursing approach that the medical community would use in evaluating how critical you are, so they can decide how where to put you in the line of service. So when it comes to issues in my life, like areas of my life, my home that I want to get organized, but it's everything at once: the homeschool, the meals, the schedule, the everything that, my mom wants me to come over, and I just like, oh my gosh, it's too much. Slow down, step one, and then prioritize through triage technique, which I share in my Big Family Moms group quite extensively. I use it in so many different areas: the relationship area, the home area, the scheduling area. It works really well, and I'll share it with you real quick, but if you want to learn more about it, feel free to jump in the group, because I've got a link in today's video. You're more than welcome to pop in there. I've got lots of free content saved in there to help big family moms overcome struggles that are very familiar to us and grow in God's grace, because that is something that's just right. That's my heart, is to overcome those struggles one step at a time, one day at a time, and to do it together in a community of other big family moms, because we need each other and we're all out there. We may not live in the same communities, but we can connect to this amazing world called the internet. So I triage. And real quick, this is what it looks like. I might do it on a piece of paper. Sometimes I can do it mentally. And real quick, I'm just writing down in order of priority. Is this critical issue? Like maybe it's the homeschool. You're like, I need to focus on the homeschool right now. That is the most critical thing. If I don't deal with that first, that's going to be the most serious thing. That's going to be my biggest oversight. Maybe it's just getting some structure to your routine, right? Just your overall flow of the day. You're like, homeschool can take a back burner for a couple of weeks. We're coming into Christmas break anyway, so perfect timing. I can take 4 weeks off, and I can sort of focus in on maybe it's your health. Maybe that's your top priority right now, because that's kind of the key thing, the most critical area. If you don't deal with this first, everything else is going to suffer. So I call that, in the triage metaphor, that's probably your most critical care. That is, someone's going to die from a hospital perspective. They get first care. Next would be urgent items. They're serious. It will need the next in line, but it's not your front burner. You put that on the back burner, so to speak. Like, it's there. It'll still be there, but no one's going to die if it waits, a couple weeks, whatever. And then last would be non-urgent. Yes, definitely needs some attention, but honestly, I could get back around to this in months from now, and my life would not have changed in any significant way. It's okay if that waits. So I find that triage technique, when I write it down or I just mentally map it, which I'm kind of used to it, so that works well for me. So you might find it helpful to write it out. At least it gets it all out of my head. And actually, a beautiful lady in the Big Family Moms group, Carolyn, she had done this technique. I shared it with in the summer from a home organization application perspective, and she was feeling super overwhelmed with medical bills. So, and she had been putting it off, and just her fear and her guilt and her stress were really building up, understandably. But she heard about my triage technique, decided to go for it in this one area, because she was like, if I could just start to get a level of organization, a sense of being, more in control rather than out of control, just with the medical bills, I think that would be a great place to start. It would bring me so much peace and relax her mind because it was keeping her up at night. So she did. She put all the medical bills together, put them out on her table, and just triaged, just organized it. And then she had it all on a piece of paper of how she was going to deal with this particular organizational issue and the order she was going to do it in. And then to her surprise, it wasn't as bad as she thought. When you're building it up in your head and it's kind of coming at you from everywhere, that can be where the overwhelm comes from because you haven't actually sat down to face it, right? And just say, well, what can I do? But if you just like, it's too much, it's too much, too much, well, then your body and your brain reacts to you saying on some level, it's too much, it's too much, it's too much. And then your body's like, yes, you told me it was too much, so it is too much. And even your body will react to that too much, the way you would pull back from like, it's too hot, right? So I highly recommend slow down, explore alone with God, with someone you trust. That alone could help bring down the stress and identify what's really going on. And then from there, you can focus in on sort of step number one. Because if you take things just one step at a time, it's not as overwhelming. You can't necessarily solve all your problems in one day or 1 week. It's realistic, and you know that. So you're kind of pulling back. I know because I do it. So I would recommend those two things. And hopefully, you'll begin to see. I believe you will see because I know it works so well for me and other moms in my group who tested it out to begin to get that overwhelm down, clear out some of the overwhelm, the fog, the emotions that are overwhelming you. And then you can move forward just one step at a time. And if you'd like some more support doing this, jump on into the Big Family Moms community. This is something I love to come alongside other moms in, and other moms in the group will completely support you in this. Sometimes it helps to know you're not alone. You're not crazy as a big family mom, and it's okay to be going through the struggles, that we don't have to be perfect and have it all figured out. And that it's, we're human. God's grace is sufficient, and it's one day at a time, right? His mercies are new every day. So we can hit that reset and we can start afresh. You don't have to wait till New Year's to start over. You don't have to wait till after, Monday morning to start afresh. Just one step at a time with some support and some courage, some practical help from some other moms who are on the journey with you, maybe just a couple steps ahead. That's what my heart is. That's what the group's for. So feel free to pop on in. Love to connect with you there. And you can see that you are not alone, mom. It being overwhelmed, especially as a big family mom, it happens. At the same time, you don't have to stay there and stay stuck and just keep spiraling further and further down. So that was what it was on my heart to share. I hope that blessed you. I love to connect with you in the group, so I'll see you over there. Otherwise, my time's up. I'm going to pop out, and I'll see you on Monday. Have a great week.